when there's an injustice against you or someone you love or someone you believe in, stand up. Don't sit down on them if they need you.
Welcome to Popcorn Planet's Pop Culture Justice. I'm Andy Signore, and I'm so excited to be back with my friends. It's Kim and Steph, the alternate, and man, have we got a show for you. There's a lot of tea we're ready to spill and lies we're ready to expose because NBC News, I'm done. I'm over it. Enough with this narrative, this nonsense. When the mainstream media is lying, we're going to come back to this topic as often as we need to put them in their place, because I'm so sick of this mainstream media versus us. We're biased. We don't check our sources. We don't know what we're doing, but we NBC, we're so much more better, and we're telling you the truth. So watch our documentary that we're going to put all over our streaming services, etc., and make lots of money off of. It's insane, the hypocrisy that's happening right now in the mainstream media, and they are threatened of us. They are legitimately scared of us, it seems. And I don't know why they keep making this a story, but we're going to go and expose them as often as we need to. And today, oh boy, we have a doozy. I know, Steph, you hadn't even got to watch today's video earlier. I hope a lot of you guys do. We're going to get Steph's reaction because I sense a rant coming from Steph. Kim, you've seen it. Do you think Steph's going to enjoy this exposed interviewer coming at me?
Yes. Yes.
Everybody get your Valley Girl accents ready, because
oh my
god. Oh my god. It's so cool. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
It's like, yes, like, oh my god, yes, I totally agree with you. Like, yes, oh my god, like, yes. Now, do I believe she really agrees with me? No, she's probably just humoring me, but she's creating this guise of caring about me. And as a reporter, that's about the skeeviest thing you can do, is to, when you're interviewing a subject, just trick them. Or you're either tricking me, Kat, or you're just not really actually paying attention and you're just humoring me to get what you want. And then when you didn't get what you wanted, you ignored me. And I've tried to like let it go. I was like, whatever. What is this fight? What am I referring to? Okay, I want to give you a full context before we get to this interview, which this whole series. In fact, I'm going to try and Steph, maybe you can help me. Let's chapter this one, because there's going to be a few main points. If you're able to help me, just add the sign when we get to these moments. So yes, guys, you'll see chapters. And in fact, let's put the first chapter, exposing Kat of NBC. And then you can skip ahead to the next chapter of the trial. We're going to watch the whole video, but I feel like both of these are kind of important, and I want to go through both long form here with you guys. So let's, before we get to the marriage on trial, which we are going to watch, give me another 15, 20 to go through this, because I think it's important to understand someone who you're going to watch in this documentary. And her name is Kat. Now, leave her alone. This isn't some campaign. I've seen some of you trying to bother her. No, that's not what we do here. And I want to make that adamantly clear. Stop. I don't like it. I saw some mean stuff about her and things. Don't do that on my watch. Don't tag me. I want nothing to do with it. I just want to get to the truth, and I want to talk about that. Don't be mean. Let's all be better than them. But because then they'll use it against, look at them making fun. Wait, don't go there. Let's be all professional about this. Kat did an article, all right? She did an article, and she asked me for an interview. And I was like, okay. And Tug was out there sort of warning people like, hey, this person's anti-Johnny, be careful. I wanted to give him benefit of the doubt. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I talked to everybody. I gave this woman like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of an interview where I gave her my true feelings on things. And I don't want to like speak high of myself, guys, but I feel like I was a pretty big voice during this trial. One of a handful that we really, I feel like we're getting a lot of traction. We knew what we were talking about. We've been following for a while. And besides that, while there's a lot of lawyers, like if there's anybody who knows like the YouTube business and has been doing it for a while, it's me. Like I've been doing this the longest. I've run a lot of massive channels. I've worked for a lot of companies, social media, YouTube, big channels I've worked with over my career. And so, all right, Kat gets to talk to me. Great. You'd think I would be a good resource for a unbiased news reporter who would be like, all right, well, cool. I got a couple quotes from this guy who clearly knows what he's talking about. She included none of them. She kept me completely out of this article. And I thought, okay, whatever. I asked her later in DM. I did try to talk to her, and I'm not going to share DMs, but I just will say her reasoning was more along the lines of, well, you're not one of the channels I was speaking about. And what she wanted to focus on was her narrative, which was these outlier channels that were sort of pivoting and turning from what they did to cover the Johnny Depp stuff. Why this was relevant, I don't know. It happens every single time some sort of pop culture event happens. I'm sure during OJ, people change their plans. You know, like when a big pop culture event happens, yeah, a lot of people start pivoting because it's what we're all talking about. But she was so hung up on this. All right, who are these channels that are Jacob's new content was suddenly had 10 million views? She was stuck on these little outlier people that were suddenly getting success. And she wasn't really, I guess, in caring about the reality of the real online media, the people who are streaming it daily, the people who are actually getting the information with crowds watching in the tens of thousands. She didn't want to talk about the real stuff. She wanted to focus on her narrative, which was, oh, YouTube creators, generalized, are pivoting from their videos to Depp and Heard content and raking in millions of views. This is what the angle they did. Now, the reason this is sort of important is because in the actual documentary that we're going to watch in a little bit, you also had
segments of YouTube that had never covered anything even close to this trial, all of a sudden pivoting. People going from fewer than 100,000 subscribers to over 500,000 subscribers in a matter of weeks.
I really don't
know what I'm talking about.
Anything about this?
Now, there were some like Pokemon who clearly is like, I'm going to talk about the Johnny Depp trial because everyone in the world was, and the people didn't know. It's sometimes like, look, I don't know, and they'd say it. But did you hear that stuff? Did you see what she just said?
You also had segments of YouTube that had never covered anything even close to this trial, all of a sudden pivoting.
Did you see that? People who had no idea what they were talking about suddenly pivoting as she spotlights us, Popcorn Planet, and then like the real Laura B, who like, are you kidding me? Like, how idiotic is this Cat? And now look, Cat didn't edit it. I said in my previous, I don't know if she edited it. I don't know if she gave them suggestions of which channels to feature in that portion because she had talked to me, but she knew better. And the fact that I was included in this section as Kat's talking about all the people pivoting, that was when I was set off and I'm like, done. It's time to scorch earth. It's time to unleash the interview. It's time to really go through all this with a fine-tooth comb to expose these frauds because it's all, they talk about narratives, talk about biased. Like, this is insane. Like, I get my NBC News debut under a cat VO saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. How do you like that stuff? There's that face I was waiting for.
Do your damn homework, bitch. What the hell? Seriously, if you go back on Popcorn Planet, okay, we've been reporting on Johnny Depp's situation for years.
Legit pre-Bud Light.
Yeah, pre-Bud Light. We've been reporting on the Johnny Depp situation for years. For her to turn around and say, oh, well, all of a sudden, you know, the trial kicks off this year and the likes of Popcorn Planet suddenly, you know, deviate from what they usually do to all of a sudden Johnny Depp. Sorry, but liar, freaking pants on fire, you freaking cowbag. She's a freaking cowbag. Already I'm calling her a cowbag. How freaking insulting is she?
Steph.
She's the freaking best.
To be fair, though, she probably didn't edit it. But I mean, I hope she didn't like go definitely put this guy in here.
I know. Well, hold on, because there's something else I noticed. Look at which video NBC chose to highlight. Damage control. ABC. Amber Heard new evidence is phony proof. Fact-checking new Dateline interview, which is NBC. They literally put a video of me like exposing their own. I don't even know if was that the editor slide. I'm trying, Andy. I don't know who's maybe. But the irony of like, I'm exposing the Dateline interview, not even like something really bad about Amber. Like I'm exposing NBC on NBC. It's pretty epic. But yeah, Steph, I could have just hit the button and it probably would have summed it up, right?
Piss off, you cowbag.
Yes.
Yeah, already, Cat can piss off, you cowbag.
Well, all right, so
my goodness.
We'll go through this interview. That was we got our big debut on NBC News last night. That's the moment, and we'll watch it again as we go through the full. But I wanted to go back, and I thought, you know what, to really give you the context, I want you to hear the interview I did. Because I thought I gave a pretty good interview. I feel like the interview she got was pretty valuable. Like to put in this piece, to have the other side heard from an expert who knows, okay, I'm not part of the person you're talking about, but still, wouldn't that be valuable information to put in a so-called news article that you're writing about said topic? She chose none of it, guys. Why? Because I didn't feed her the BS she wanted. She didn't. And then I made it clear on Twitter when Tug was coming at me like, hey, be careful. I was like, well, I recorded it too, so don't worry. And then I think that may have spooked her. I don't know, to be fully honest. But we have the full interview here. I want to play it. I'll start and stop a little bit so you can hear it. But for full transparency, I thought it was important for you guys to hear the interview. And then we'll go back, since Kat's involved, and this is all part of NBC. They didn't interview me again, even though I got a lot of information on this, and they knew I was able to be interviewed. I was willing and ready. Why won't NBC talk to the people who are actually involved, who have another side of this, right? Who are trying to push for the truth. They don't want us, right? So here's my interview to add to it so you can get sort of full context, and you can hear, oh my God, you can hear, yeah, Kat talking about all the things. Here we go.
Is it okay with you if I record just for transcription purposes?
Yeah, I want to be saying, I record all my interviews. Of course I do. Of course we all do, as the reporters do. Plus she's in New York, I know. Idiot, of course. Anybody who wants to interview me ever, I'm going to tell you, you said it for me. Yeah, we're recording, of course. And anybody else doing these interviews, save the evidence, because these media outlets are going to absolutely take you out of context. And make sure you can play it back so you can have the full context of what was actually said. We can totally record it. It's fine.
Awesome. My idea was to sort of start to dig into this like outpouring of content related to this trial. And what I ended up noticing was, especially on YouTube, but also on a few other social media platforms, there are some channels that have like completely pivoted from totally unrelated topics to the trial in the past couple of weeks and are getting like millions and millions of views. And this was on top of just like in general talking to like creators about how this content around this trial is getting more views than like maybe their local content or just other content. So I was hoping to talk with you a little bit about that and just sort of your perspective on why this is so popular right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm open.
Awesome. Okay. So going into sort of like your channel now, what like led you to create Popcorn Planet, and what would you describe the channel as?
I mean, I was falsely accused of assault back in 2017, so this case was incredibly relatable to me. I've been covering it actually for a while. Popcorn Planet was sort of created as sort of a movie pop culture channel. But I had created a channel called ScreenJunkies that I feel I was unfairly pushed out of. And as I had to sort of climb back and do what I do well, the movie space was harder to crack again because I'd already done it with ScreenJunkies. And so I was trying to just figure out how could I offer some sort of other commentary on Hollywood and pop culture with the lessons I learned from that experience, which were many. You know, I'd made some mistakes in my life, but not the ones that were painted of me. And I wanted to sort of, with that fresh, bettering myself and with that fresh perspective, I wanted to just be more real about, I think, the media's coverage of things, because I don't believe the media is always being honest. And so Popcorn Planet sort of grew, and the voice of it, I think, has grown over time, of just sort of, whatever the pop culture events are of the moment, we try to cover it with a more real perspective without any sort of fear of what the studios or, certain people are going to think. We want to just keep it honest and raw, but also fair and civil and respectful.
That makes
I feel like I did a pretty good job explaining what we do. Yeah, there it is.
a lot of sense.
She thought so too.
And so with the trial
Allegedly.
and your coverage of it, would you say that this is getting more traction than the other things that you cover on the channel?
I mean, I think Will Smith's Slapgate got a lot of coverage. I mean, the Gabby Petitio case back in the fall got a lot of coverage. I mean, it depends. There's pop culture goes up and down. There are huge moments in pop culture fandom. Tiger King was huge last year. I mean, or 2 years ago, whatever it was. There's always like, those water cooler moments. And I think instead of TV shows now, it's events and big, pop culture moments now, because with streaming, we lose that ability to like watch it all at the same time. And I think the Johnny Depp trial has become, in a weird way, the best Netflix show, on TV right now, where I think everyone is just really engrossed. And I think a lot of people were ignorant to the reality of the case. And I think we're shrugging off as, oh, they're both crazy. But when as someone who's covered this trial for a while, I'm not just following Johnny as a stan. I'm following Johnny because of the evidence. Like, I think Amber is a terrible person. I don't believe her. And I'm happy others are finally seeing her lies and what she's been caught in. And so I think it's been a, you know, whirlwind of a lot of reasons why I think this has caught the, you know, the world's attention. But sure, I mean, is there a lot of people tuned in? Absolutely. But I think it's for some good causes.
Yeah, definitely. And as
definitely.
somebody who has
like, oh my God, for sure, Andy, what you're doing is amazing.
been on YouTube for a long time and like really knows the ins and outs of YouTube, do you think that there's anything like unusual or particularly interesting that stands out to you about this moment, or maybe even just like the trajectory of how these big entertainment events kind of like capture entire platforms in conversation?
I mean, I think this is the first time we've had like world celebrity, famous man acknowledge that he was abused. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, on my channel, we have a lot of domestic violence survivors. My audience is mostly women now, and they really connect to him and they feel for him because we've had streams where DV survivors are sharing their experiences, and it's making me, they make me cry, and their genuineness, the realness. And I think Amber Heard is really acting, and I think she's not being honest. And I think it's triggering a lot of people who are watching to see that men can go through this too. I think we went through the Me Too movement, which was incredibly important, but I think was, you know, completely one-sided at times, where we weren't really sort of looking at both sides fairly and focusing on due process. We focus sometimes on the social media mob instead of what happened, and the nuances of what happened. And so I think this case has been, I think there's been a lot of bottled up things of people wanting to really get to the bottom of real cases and not just what the media. I mean, this case is so corrupt. I mean, the leader of Time's Up was caught covering up Cuomo's victims. She was repping Amber Heard. Like, if you really go deep in this case, I think a lot of people are just angry and fed up. And I think Johnny, while many may criticize him for exposing all this, I think he had to. If he hadn't have done this, the media and just most people would have just written him off as what Amber painted him. And I think it's much more complicated, and Amber is a lot more guilty than she wants to admit.
Definitely. And so that's a very good, I think, like, overall take on the situation. So I'm grateful for your sort of like description of that.
So first of all, I want to pause for a second because she's definitely not listening. She's not paying attention. I feel like I lost her when I wasn't giving her the answers she wanted 5 minutes ago. But for her to, like, literally, even that wasn't even just a yes. I was, oh my God, yes. What a great take. Yeah, you said it so great. I'm so glad you gave me all that insight. She's just, again, she's going to feed you whatever you want. That's how the media works. That's why I wanted you to hear this. So it's so easy for someone on the phone who's talking to these people to just get swayed and be like, yeah, and open up and do it. And it's gross to me because she doesn't believe anything I'm saying. I can prove it later through conversations I've had and tweets she's done. This is just proving how much of a hypocrite she is. Just agreeing and yeah, totally, yeah.
When it comes to some of these, like, outliers that I'm noticing, like, there was one that I tweeted about yesterday because I found it so odd.
And for the record, she just even called it herself an outlier, which again is not the main thing. She's focused on these peripheral things instead of all the more epic things we just talked about that she said was such a great take, like the corruption, the meat, you're a journalist, Kat, and you're focusing on the weird YouTube outliers. Why? What is the story?
Like a channel that had been making, like, math and engineering programming tutorials, and then, like, in the past couple of weeks switched to covering the trial. And so their videos were going from, like, a couple thousand views each to all of a sudden, like, 2.5 million views, 3 million views. And I was curious, are you seeing those types of big view count jumps with your own content?
I mean, she wants to fall me in line with the one example she's found, is what she's trying to do here. I see a jump whenever there's a conversation that the whole world's having. Yes, whenever it's a trending topic and it's something the creator cares about, usually it performs better. Right there's a quote that would have showed unbiased from me that she could have put in the article, and she chose not to. I think YouTube's algorithm is to blame for what I think you're implying. Like, YouTube's algorithm doesn't always reward the creator. and sometimes creators are forced to play the algorithm. And I have seen some creators definitely are riding the algorithm of this trial for sure. But I don't want to be careful of how you quote that. Like I'm not doing that. And I think there are a lot of experts who have been following this before the UK trial even, who really are informed, and we try to, educate on the people that are really behind this. But there are a lot of people who have, I think, joined the bandwagon and increase it just because that's how YouTube's algorithm rewards with trending topics. And again, they don't want to blame YouTube or the algorithm, right? It's always all of us. We're always generalized together. But yeah, do I fault them? No, I think it's actually good because they're giving voice to this case, which I think is an incredibly important case. I want to give Amber the benefit of the doubt. This is what a court of law is for. And I don't believe she's proving to be a genuine person. And I think a lot of people are connecting to that and frustrated with her. And I really think that's why this is riding bigger, because it's just surprising people. It's not the type of case we typically see.
Yes, and I feel like one thing that I've noticed in doing these interviews is, like, the first 3 creators I spoke to were all women, and one of them, who has really intensely followed the case, is a domestic violence survivor. And I think it's really interesting, and I'm not sure if this is the kind of thing that would, I'm sure this is the kind of thing that would that would be reflected in sort of like the algorithmic push that these videos are getting. But it's like, everyone, so many different communities, I think, are finding something to relate to within this case. And that's really fascinating to me. It's almost like uniting groups of people who might normally not agree on the same types of subjects. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super serious subject, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's an important and serious subject. I don't want to, that's a fact. However, it's also filled with a lot of crazy celebrity salacious details that they're both revealing, right? And I think that's what people like to hear. People always, they always stop to see the car accident on the side of the road, what right or wrong they do. So, that part of our culture, I think, is wrapped in with a serious topic. And I think the combined, effort of that is really what's causing people to pay attention. I mean, it's the outpouring of survivors, domestic violence, sexual assault survivors that have reacted to this case has inspired me to really dig deeper into it, and also my own experiences. But when I think a lot of people, I hate to say we're all piling up on Amber Heard, but I feel like she thought how do I say this so I'm quoted better? I feel like Amber Heard assumed the media and the world would just believe and support her like it always has. And I think a lot of people are finally refreshed to see that it's not going the way she thought it would, that she is being exposed for her disingenuine, what's the word? For her, for not being honest.
Yes. Yeah.
Her truth is being the. It's not about her truth. It's about the truth. And I think we've heard too many stories about my truth and your truth and whatever. There's a truth, and there's audio tapes, and there's evidence, and it's really starting to make the picture quite clear that Amber Heard is not being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And those are pretty much all of the questions I had related to
let's cross
sort of
over
like the
that.
algorithm and the topic.
Yeah, totally.
Is there anything else that you think is important when discussing this case that I didn't ask about?
You just said what was important.
I've told her so many. Oh, here I am, Steph, just giving her the benefit of the doubt.
I love his face.
That's on me.
Look at this. That reaction is everything to this interview right now. You could have paused it at a better time, Andy.
Please stop being dumb.
Oh my goodness, dude! Get something into this Valley Girl's one brain cell, please.
But so she's asking me, and stupid me thinks, okay, maybe she'll actually hear it because she's been playing along. Just in general, there's a lot. TikTok is probably the most interesting thing that I would add in, of just like all of this. By the way, is mentioned in the doc. All of this proving I could give them sound bites all day long.
Push back. Why do you think they are still backing her? This makes me so mad. T in Tennessee.
Thank you, T. Appreciate you. How do we push back? We support, share, all that jazz, and we keep exposing is what we got to do. I was surprised how invested TikTok was because they're younger. they're usually more into, you know, these types of supporting movements of, you know, believing all women. And I think it's been pretty impressive and interesting to see how that demographic has turned on Amber as well. It's good to see more people find the truth, but they also are rushing to expose things that I think aren't real. And so we are it's like the thing that bugged me as I try to sort through the facts, I'm constantly getting shared like, oh my God, Amber Heard read quotes from The Talented Mr. Ripley. And as soon as I heard that, I did my homework and watched the movie, and I'm like, no, she didn't. And so the danger is make sure you're not following a outlet or media source that is peddling you lies and crap and rumor, and hopefully follow the sources that are really invested in keeping this case honest. So there I am even admitting to the thing that she's going to report about, right? And just say, well, yeah, you got to be careful of these people. Kat could have done her job as a journalist and said, luckily there are some channels that are, you know, have journalistic integrity. They don't do it that way, guys. They're out there calling us all out. Where was the I thought I had it here. I'll find it in a second. But there's that article where she was calling out Emily, Nick, and Legal Bites. It's sickening to me how they do I have it here? I don't have it here. I'll have to find it in a second. But there was an article that was exposing the salaries of everybody. And she's out there like calling it out, like shocked, like, oh my God, these YouTubers are making 6 figures. She's obsessed. I don't understand why you couldn't at least incorporate one of our quotes from one of us in the piece. It just shows, again, I'm not mad that I'm not in the article. I'm sharing this because it's showing her bias. Like, she doesn't want to hear the other side and she doesn't want to quote it, even when she has it.
Definitely. And yeah, I think that's definitely something I've noticed as well. Like, a lot of these viral moments that are emerging, a lot of them I think are more constructive and have more to do with the case itself. But then every once in a while you'll see sort of like these outlier moments go super viral and you're like,
Yeah, like I don't think Amber Heard snorted cocaine on the stand. I don't think that, but everyone does now. But as I've humored the thought, someone was like, well, could she have snorted something to try to help her cry? And I'm like, you know what? It does look like she did snort something. So, you know, while there's these conspiracy theories that I think go too far, sometimes humoring them and talking them out, at least you can figure out, well, is there somewhere in the middle that maybe she did do? She definitely posed for a photo mid-cry. And so, you know, some of these viral moments are legit. But yeah, some of them you got to take with a grain of salt.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And the other kind of content that I'm seeing emerge that like some people have criticized, other people have sort of supported or encouraged. There's a lot of like compilation style videos coming out of this, like top 10 funniest moments or like Johnny's zinger is on the stand. And
yeah, because it's popular. Duh. We all want to see it because we're watching all this stuff. We want to see it compiled.
And if she actually knew her homework, top 10 videos trend extremely well for the YouTube algorithm. Like, top 10 is a great SEO kind of keyword to have in. So, but there's always like top 10 this and top 10 that.
No,
so
you're not. But
what?
top 10 Johnny Depp quips, too much. It's too much stuff.
Apparently so.
If, like, there's a tilt of almost like too much focusing on the entertainment value, since it is such a serious subject that does affect people and trigger people. What's kind of like your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of content farms on Facebook and YouTube that are literally AI generated content just to sort of try to capitalize on algorithms. And I don't like that type of content. And I wish more people would see through and find genuine, you know, entertainers or reporters that they can connect to and support them instead of these clickbaity string out montages, for sure. But at the same time, like, you know, we did a video the other day talking about who is Dr. Curry's Muffin Man. Like, we were really invested, but we did it out of love. You know what I mean? Like, not to try to pry or dox this person, but we were so impressed with Dr. Curry and her husband who brought the muffins. And we've over weeks we've been like, who is this Muffin Man? Like, he must be amazing. What does he look like? I need to know. And so, you know, there's certain times where we do try to add some levity to it, because if you don't, it gets really heavy. And so I think, you know, yeah, there are times where it's so serious and full of pop culture moments that I can't blame people wanting to try to find humor in it, but I do think there are some people who are overdoing it, yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, she
okay,
pooped in a bed. It's hard to not laugh at that and be like, what? You know, my dentist was, as I'm telling my dentist what I do, they brought up her pooping on the bed like that. It's kind of hard to not laugh and just go to the craziness of some of these things when Amber Heard pooped on Johnny Depp's bed.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Definitely true. Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, well, these were all of the questions that I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, happy to help. I hope I'll check it out. Hopefully it's all done fairly. If you have a question or anything I said or need a reword, just let me know, and I'm happy to help put it on the record correctly.
Definitely will do. And I'll be sure to reach out if I have any follow-ups or anything, but otherwise I'll send you the link as soon as it's out.
She never did. She never put me in the article. Instead, she pivoted and focused on the things she really wanted to hear about. And that was it. And again, this is journalism for you guys. The tech journalists at NBC, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, guys, but I don't know. I feel like that was a good get for this interview, right? Like, I don't do a lot of interviews. I really don't. And I took some time for her, and she got me quoted. And I said a lot that could have easily even been misquoted, right? And she took none of it. Why? Because I wasn't on her team. I didn't have the narrative she wanted, and she wanted to hide that from you. Here you had someone else, an opposing view, telling you something, and it wasn't good enough for this article. Now, the reason I share all of this is I think it's important to expose that before we now dip into the NBC documentary that features Kat as their expert. Because again, it all comes down to this, right? And so here's where we need the time code for A Marriage on Trial, because I think now it's...
What's your OBS showing at? Give me the time code.
Actually, before we go to that, Steph, you want to comment quickly, Steph? Because I know you're reacting to that interview. Before we go, because we're going to watch this next. It's like a half hour. I'm going to have to start and stop. Be warned, because... NBC
commentary.
But before we go and start that, thank you for all the chats. We're going to read them later in the show after the documentary. If I may try and get a few if I can, if they're related. So please keep supporting. They hate when you support. But before I go and watch this next, Steph, do you have a reaction?
Oh my goodness, who the frick is she? Like, now I know what before we streamed when you guys were like all Valley Girl. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Like, totally.
Oh my god, oh my god.
I don't want to make fun of her, but
boys,
like, oh my god.
What the frick, right? Okay, firstly, she's talking about these outliers, staying in the lane, doing whatever, masks, cleaning, I don't know. And then all of a sudden they pivot to the trial and they're getting millions of views, this, that, and the other, okay? So what she is insinuating them, in my opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, is that those that have never spoken about anything like this before, all of a sudden do, and they're chasing for the views, chasing for the gold, this, that, and the other. NBC, you do the same freaking thing, but you're all over the place. I've just gone on your website where you look at the sections. Bud Light, US News, Politics, World, Local, Business, Health, Investigations, Culture, Science, Sports, Tech and Media, Decision 2022, Weather, Asian America, NBC Black, NBC Latino, NBC Out. Okay? This whole thing about, oh my goodness, this dude was all about maths, and then all of a sudden, he's covering the Johnny Depp trial, and he's getting millions of views, this, that, and the other, insinuating again the chasing of the clout and the views, this, that, and the other. That's what NBC does anyway when you look at their damn website alone.
They're all chasing algorithms.
Absolutely everything, because they're all chasing for it. They're all chasing for it. And this whole thing about focusing on trending, I tell you something, right? They would have never made the decision to not report on the Johnny Depp trial. They would have never made the decision to not report on Oscar's Slapgate. They would have never made the decision to not report on the Free Britney movement when that started to take steam. Really take steam this time last year when Britney finally spoke out publicly about it all. So how dare she turn around and say, oh my goodness, YouTubers, they chase for the clout, they chase for the views, this, that, and the other. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever's trending, they're going to be all over it. Because they do that anyway. No. The problem that they've got is that we're taking a lot of their freaking audience. because all the eyeballs ain't on mainstream media anymore. It's on new media. It's on us, YouTube. They can't freaking stand it because the less views that they get, the less ad revenue that they get. We are taking their audience and they hate it. So what they want to do is they want to declare war on us. Saying, oh my God, these YouTubers, they're fake, they're this, they're that, they're disingenuous, blah, blah, blah. Piss off, you freaking ultimate Jersey girl freaking cowbag. Seriously, go freaking do one with a cactus up your backside laced with chili oil. It's absolutely freaking insulting. Insulting. How would she like it if all of a sudden we turn around and be like, oh, NBC are the outliers, blah, 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 blah. They only focus on the trending. You know, they were all about the election, but all of a sudden they pivot into Johnny Depp. Ooh, I wonder why. No, they can't have the same criticism, but we can. Freaking go do one, cat. Seriously, I don't care. Insulting.
Andy, you're muted.
I want to read her example, but Kim, go ahead quickly, just
No,
before we get into
I
it.
was just gonna say what's bothering me so much about this is that it very much echoing what Steph said. If you take a look at the views that are on the NBC documentary, Andy, can you pull that up by any chance? Would you mind?
Yes, 16,000.
Okay. Well, if you reload it, I think it's about 20 now. If you check
16.
it out, yeah.
Posting has been
Okay, now
to
it's
be
20.
fair. Yeah, 22. Okay,
Okay.
so that's been up now for 22 hours. And Andy put up his video responding to this a couple of hours ago. And I'm curious as to what the view count is on your video that has been up for what, like 2 hours?
Let's see here. For 2 hour video ago, I'm going to look 41,000
Okay.
for 2 hours. And that theirs was up all night. Last night, they've just pushed 20. And yes, 2 hours ago, I think it's actually more than that behind the scenes stuff, right?
Yeah, it probably is because
Yeah,
back then is always
Real-time
different.
views.
But my point is, first of all, first point, ratioed. Second point, the thing is, this is part of the issue, is that NBC, there's a level here that it's like, in all seriousness and trying to be respectful, people are choosing something different than you. And at that point, the correct response, in my opinion, is not to scream at your audience or your potential audience that they're wrong. It should be that you should listen to them because they're being very clear about what they're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that makes us the bad guy. I think that makes you guys maybe a bit behind. And we don't have to have a negative relationship. You had an opportunity here to talk to Andy and to use him as a reference and to, get another opinion, but you chose not to, and you chose to focus on the outliers, not the actual thing of what really happened during this trial. I think that speaks volumes, and I don't think it needs to be a war. People just need to be a bit more realistic. We're not the enemy, and neither is your audience.
And I didn't even start this war with them. Like, they're the ones who keep calling us out and doing those articles. And to be clear, it's actually 70,000 views real time. So more than doubled NBC's official thing that we're going to watch. We're going to get more views on our watching of their piece, giving them eyeballs. They should be paying me to be doing this, to be honest. And they got paid a fortune to edit this thing. And we're running rings around them. Because and it's crazy to me. They still have sponsors buying ad time during this nonsense. When come buy it over here because we're gonna actually treat it right. Can't tell you how happy Sheath is. They're not even paying me right now, and I'm so happy with how they treat us that I wear Sheath underwear with the pouch. SheathUnderwear.com, code popcorn. When you take care of your creators and you support, right? We want to support back, and so that's why you got to build those relationships and with you guys and with sponsors and everything. So I'm so grateful when we bring in a sponsor that you guys actually support it. So thank you guys for that. Those comments, you're right on. Just real quick before we pivot over to the next, and I'll give you a time code in a second. Before we set the next chapter. Just the example she's making. Jacob, who's 15, was making Elden Ring videos to a few hundred people, and then he spoke. He didn't want to give his last name, and then later he decided to do some compilations of the trial. So he edited together some funny compilations, which then overall, I guess combined, got him 10 million views. Now, how is this person who's making compilations, who's 17, actually changing the outcome and doing what they're implying and all these things that we're going to see. I want you to remember that, because that's who they're calling out. Like, this is apparently the reason Amber lost, because some kid stopped making Elden Ring videos for nobody and decided to edit together pop culture countdowns of the most biggest story that was in existence at that time. And she's calling it out like, oh, well, see, this is why Amber's lost. She's going to do, and it's all in this thread. In fact, let's just go through this thread before I play it. The misinformation campaign around the Depp Heard trial, the verdict is chilling. The success of Depp's redemption arc narrative reveals a lot about our social media platforms and ourselves. 78,000 people like this, people. Media literacy around this trial was abhorrent. Most people, even if they did not watch the trial. That's probably true, including you, Kat. I'm going to bet you didn't watch it as much as we did. They watched TikToks and YouTube videos, most of which were biased for a clear economic purpose. Talk about a generalization. Where's your data for that? That's not the same thing. What economic purpose? Well, follow the money. Well, most of the viral content around the trial fell into comedy of Johnny good, Amber bad. As long as your content fit that narrative, it can increase your views, audience, and earnings. What's so frustrating, again, Kat had me on the phone, right? I could have alerted her to the actual earnings of this. I could have alerted her how many channels are demonetized because of reused content that YouTube doesn't even pay out. Yep. Like, she's so full of crap, you don't even... I thought you were the tech person, Kat. You don't know what we're getting paid. And that Jacob person who made those Elden Rings, do you know if his channel's monetized? Because I'm guessing it's not. Because if he's just making a bunch of video game content and then made some Johnny Depp trial content, I can tell you with fact how many channels that are actually creating repurposed content are getting denied by YouTube and are not making money. You're making this story because you want it to be a story, because you've admitted you believe Amber. She told me so privately in our conversations. She believed, she read the UK verdict, and I was just like, oh my God, this person has her own beliefs. Whatever, it is what it is, but I disagree with them. But then you don't get to call us biased and say we're the unfair ones. It's not right what you're doing. Posting from a pro-Amber or even a neutral position means you will lose followers. There's no incentive to consider both sides. Bullshit. Bullshit. You talk to somebody who hears both sides. I've offered you on this channel numerous times, and you won't come on. Why? You're lying. As a result, Amber's evidence has been largely ignored. What? Please. Oh my God, Kat, I am begging you. Please come on. We'll have a show, just you and me. No ganging up, no co-hosts. Please come on and present Amber's evidence that we're all missing. Eve, anybody. I will absolutely do it. Because you can't. Because there is none. Stop saying this. Many people who consume this trial don't even know what Amber has evidence. Know that Amber has evidence, or that a UK judge ruled in her favor for 12 out of 14 incidents of abuse she testified. Do we even need to educate Kat on the fact that, you know, this was for the Sun and all the corruption that was happening for the judge, and now all the literally up for mistrial because of her lies and her perjury in the Australia trial, etc. Kat didn't do any of that research. She doesn't listen to that Australia audio. She doesn't know that she's already perjured herself in multiple countries. She doesn't care because, well, I read the UK judge. As Adam Waldman testified in this trial, YouTubers and social media played an overwhelming role in the perception of this trial. People who consume their news from content creators, specifically news around this case, believe it is more trustworthy than mainstream media. Well, yeah, when the Washington Post is out there printing lies so often that they have to include editor's notes when they're caught, or monetizing off defamatory op-eds. I wonder why we don't believe it anymore, Kat. Why do you believe this? Well, most articles about it tend to focus on reactions to the trial, like your article, rather than an analysis of actual evidence. Rotten in Denmark has been doing excellent threads about this. Okay, one person, I don't know them. Can someone tell me if Rotten in Denmark is biased or not in the chat, please? A pitfall of going to YouTubers and TikToks for coverage, which again is us. Because again, she's focusing on Jacob in his underwear doing compilations. No. If you're talking about YouTube coverage, that's a knock on me and Legal Bites and Nick and Emily, people who really know what they're talking about. You're calling us out without wanting to actually call us out. Be honest, Kat. And that's who you're now telling. Be careful going to these people. These creators aren't beholden to any editorial standards or journalistic norms. In fact, they're incentivized to break them, to fit the narrative and make money. Can you fucking believe this? Oh, but you don't break the rules to monetize?
And you know, networks at all and news stations, they don't have any political alignment whatsoever. That's never a thing.
No, they're not in it for the money, Kim. They're in it for the truth. Oh my God, we've known for a while that social media incentivizes bad behavior because it fuels engagement. That's what you're doing in this thread. You just want engagement. You want clicks. Her boss is probably upset. How much do you want to bet Kat's boss in NBC is like, Kat, why do I see all these YouTubers? Emily Baker, Andy Signore. How come you don't have a community like them? Look at these views they're getting on this trial. I need you to step it up, Kat. Where are your views? Is probably what's happening. So it creates a bitterness, an angerness, because they don't actually want to create a community that matters with truth, and they gotta find their own little spin. And by engaging us and angering us, we engage with her, and then she gets a little short spike of attention. Dopamine is what she gets. That's why they do these, guys. And she doesn't want to come on because I know more about the background of tech than she does. But I would never waste my time reporting for NBC because I'm going to be miserable like Kat is. If she actually held any weight in this field, she would start her own like I have and so many others. And when we start it independently, don't judge us for making money and doing better than you. How dare you? This thread is embarrassing. The amount of misinformation you are spreading, saying we're look at this. We've known for a while it incentivizes bad behavior. It also incentivizes conspiracy theories, groupthink, cruelty, and harassment. This case exemplifies all of that. Many of the criticisms of Amber Heard are rooted in misogyny, but beyond that, they're also rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of how trauma works. Okay, she knows more about trauma, guys. When people cherry pick from Amber's testimony, hyperfixate on her emotions and body language, lie about her, and make fun of her, they feed into this culture that hurts all victims. Even if Amber isn't a victim, well, thank you. Okay, at least we gave her that. Even if she isn't, this behavior hurts victims. Well, you're going about it in a terrible way.
What?
Okay, hang on. That line right there. I just want to. What?
Just so Kat knows, now you're going to hear from two victims. Go ahead, guys.
All right.
How much can we really swear right now?
No, try not to.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to. I mean, Kat, like, to be fair, if you ever do see this, I doubt you will. And
she will.
I don't mean...
You don't think Kat's going to sit and watch this whole video?
No,
Hi, Kat.
No.
Hi, Kat.
I assume she's a busy person, and I'm not trying to, like, shoot ill will at you or anything like that, but, I mean, I have a trauma disorder. I almost lost my life to my trauma disorder for multiple reasons. And I am a survivor of extended abuse in my childhood. When you say that opinions are rooted in misogyny, I really have to disagree with you because that's not how I came to the conclusions that I came to. And even just you saying, even if Amber isn't a victim, this behavior hurts victims. Well, if you don't believe that Amber is a victim and you believe that she's the abuser in this case, why doesn't Johnny matter?
Yep.
Because I believe that feminism, I believe that, real justice is equality amongst all sexes and genders. I don't believe that abuse has a gender. And I don't think that makes me misogynistic. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I mean, we've had so many people call into this show that are survivors and have been through horrific things. Part of what actually really affected me through this trial was talking to people who had experienced abuse similar to what Amber was claiming had happened to her. And then they told me about the long-term effects of those things and how it affected them, the people they loved that went through it and everything else. And I mean, points like the things that they told me literally made me sick to my stomach. And it was so obvious looking at them and being like, stuff isn't adding up. It doesn't add up. And that's why people felt differently about it. If we really want to move forward as a society, We need equality. And I don't believe in sacrificing people for that. I believe in truth. And if that makes me misogynistic and I don't seem like a, you know, if you think I don't understand the way trauma works or whatever, I mean, that's your opinion, but I respectfully disagree.
Steph, go ahead. I'm getting my cactus ready.
Get your cactus ready. Even if Amber isn't a victim, this behavior hurts victims. Okay. Right, here we go. So, you being on Team Amber hurts real victims. She is not part of the survivorship community. We do not claim her. We do not accept her. Who is part of the survivorship community? Johnny Depp. At the end of the day, when it freaking comes down to it, right? Finally, right? A victim took their monster to court and won. Do you know how low, in terms of the percentage scale, it is for a victim to take, firstly, their monster to court to even get it that far, and then actually get a win against them? It's low, less than freaking 5%. When Johnny Depp won, not only did he win for himself, he won for every single freaking victim in the survivorship community. And you turning round and saying, no one supporting Amber Heard is hurting victims. No. It's the other way around. You not supporting Johnny Depp is actually hurting the victims. And you not supporting Johnny Depp's win is not only taking that freaking win away from a real victim, you're taking that win away from all of us victims in the survivorship community. How freaking dare you, Kat? I hope she's watching this. I am a survivor. I was repeatedly essayed when I was a young girl. Repeatedly. And other things. Can't say certain things because of YouTube. So hear me on this, Kat. You not supporting Johnny Depp hurts the victims. Not us not supporting Amber Heard. No. She's the monster, Johnny Depp's the victim. Get it freaking right or shut the hell up. It is absolutely insulting. How dare you try and take away that win from the survivorship community? So damn rare that a victim gets a win against their monster in any freaking capacity. And finally this has happened on a world scale, on a very public scale. And you want to take that away from us? Piss off, you freaking Jersey sounding girl, evil cowbag. No, she go do one. No.
That's not a Jersey
I'm not taking
accent. That's a Valley Girl accent, just to clarify. But everything else Steph said was spot on. And yes, I got my cactus ready. She knows where she can shove it. But my goodness, well said. It's so scary how, again, like, she's now saying, oh, and so many people are doing this online, but they're just disregarding the fact that no, the victim actually won. But it just shows their own misogyny because they can't accept that males are victims. That's really what they're doing. It's projection that she's doing here because no, Johnny can't be one. That's impossible. This is ridiculous. Now no women are going to be believed ever because, oh, Johnny is what she's doing here. And the reality is no, Amber lost fair and square by a jury. It's over. And the reality is, like, you don't have to say, Kat, you don't have to say anything. Like, in fact, if you didn't say anything, you'd probably help better because you're elongating the drama and the trauma and everything else by continuing to fight it is what you're doing when a jury made its decision. This thread isn't going to be popular because it's for a fairly case really unpopular. I first talked, it's not because it's unpopular. You're misinformed and you're generalizing and you're being ignorant. Like, you're allowed to have your viewpoints, of course, but you're going on a soapbox trying to lay as a news journalist. And I'm sorry, you are misinformed. I don't know what news you're going after that's made you come up with this unbiased report, but you're showing your bias. And yeah, social media incentivizes people to have those unpopular opinions so you get engagement. Don't try to play coy to that. If you want to go against the norm, you will get clicks on social media. It's why Twitter is so popular, because it's, aggressive. Everyone's fighting with each other. She's trying to piss everybody off. She didn't write this wanting to piss off Johnny Depp fans. Many people have pointed out there will likely be a future redemption arc for Amber, like there was for Britney. Oh my God, I'm gonna vomit. She just put them in the same sentence, Kim. I realize, I can't even believe she did that. It again shows how misinformed she is on either case. Britney was a slave in her house, drugged against her will, kept from her children. How dare you put them in do more homework, girl? You're one of the worst journalists I've ever seen in my life. How on earth are we supposed to take you seriously when you just did that? I mean, even if, okay, well, fine. Johnny's the guilty one. I still wouldn't have compared either of them to Britney Spears. What are you, she deserves a redemption arc? So she doesn't believe Britney was what is that even? I can't even. This woman is intolerable. It's so frustrating. But again, all of that I think was necessary so you understand that's who NBC got for parts of the interview. And then you can imagine several other people along that thinking for their news documentary about Johnny Depp. So now, here's the point where we get the time code. Steph, I think we're at, sorry, I'm just for the chapters, 56:15.
Yeah.
If you want to put it in the comment, you can literally put it in the description right now. Put 0, and then put the first 2, and then the chapters can happen even during a live. Thank you for that. Easier because I'm doing it. But all right, here we go. We're gonna watch now A Marriage on Trial. I do implore you, if you skipped the first part, it's really imperative to just get a quick heads up. We did sort of expose a person who's going to be in this documentary, Kat. We played the full interview I did with her, and she's just not being honest. And it just goes to show how a lot of the people you're going to hear in this documentary aren't being honest. Now, I also got to warn you, we do have to start and stop a lot. It's for commentary purposes. We are offering our news commentary. We are repurposing this. It's guys, please, commenters, when you see people complaining, tell them to shut up. I don't want to keep screaming and deal with it. Yes, we have to start and stop. It's literally on YouTube. If you want to watch it without commentary, you can go watch it without commentary, okay? You're watching it here because we're giving our commentary. So please beware and don't go complain about it. All right, you ready to watch this, guys? Here we go. A Marriage on Trial, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. And thank you so much for the comments. I promise I'm going to try to go through them all, or the bulk of them, by the end of this. I will try and go through as many as I can, but just know your comments on support, and it really pisses off people like Kat. So make sure you use the pinned comment throughout. I'll try and get some random ones throughout, but you can use the pinned comment to use stream elements to tip, or you can use a super chat, or you can do the Cash App. And yes, the work we do takes a lot of time and effort, so we appreciate your tips. And yes, we're monetized. We're allowed to be. Tell NBC News, in other words, and other groups like it, that you agree we're allowed to be rewarded for our hard work. All right, thank you guys. Here we go. So warning for this documentary contains these things. And this part of the show might also get trimmed later if NBC doesn't let me show it. So I'll keep it up as long as I can, but just be warned, if for some reason it trimmed, it's because NBC made me take it out.
Our coverage begins in Fairfax County, Virginia.
Around the world, the divorce of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard getting uglier as we
trial with actor Johnny Depp suing his ex-wife, actress Amber Heard, began.
I struggle to think of a case like this where you had both sides really using the courtroom to fight the public opinion war.
I think a lot of people want to dismiss this case and say that this is two celebrities and who cares. People don't always get the nuances of it because they're seeing the headlines.
You had Johnny Depp and all of his fans came out of the woodwork. They were on TikTok.
We came out of the woodwork.
Apparently we did.
Already. Yeah. We came out of the woodwork. You ready for it? It's already starting.
They were on the comment threads.
People believed him.
All the Johnny Depp fans were the ones in the comment threads. Oh, I mean, I can't. I'm 43 seconds in, and it's already clear where their bias is.
I didn't believe her. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But that's how the social media frenzy works.
You mean the evidence? I thought you were a lawyer. This guy who's talking is a lawyer, and that's how. Okay, got it. Not how the evidence works.
We're now in a world where social media is used as a weapon.
You hearing this scary music? Social media is a weapon against Amber.
When people act like social media is completely irrelevant to the real world, that's plainly incorrect. And there is no denying the impact that social media posts and viral content can have on our real world.
There's Kat. We're going to see her throughout this, I suppose. NBC digital docs. Available on Peacock, I'm sure, too, and all over. Now, I don't have ads. I'm curious if you guys... Somebody doesn't have ads, can you go check and tell us in the comments? I have YouTube Premium, so it turns them off. But I'm curious how many ads you get on this thing, because let's one... Is it monetized? Is what I want to know.
In 2012, Johnny Depp was arguably one of the biggest stars in the world.
The key word you're going to probably hear it a bunch, was. Right out the gate, they're already taking shots at him. Was. Still is.
He had been sort of a teen heartthrob in the
They're all talking in past tense, like about his, this fallen star.
80s with 21 Jump Street, and his star really built around these interesting characters that he portrayed on film.
He was mainly known as being Tim Burton's muse.
But then Captain Jack Sparrow with Disney shot him into huge stardom. What?
I love these Amber Heard fans documenting Johnny's career. Okay, guys, thanks for the recap. We needed it. I think he's a bigger star than you want to give him credit for. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm sorry, it just bothers me because I love Tim Burton. I was one of the goth girls in high school type thing. I had all the movies. I watched it religiously. I never viewed Johnny as a muse to Tim Burton, of that being his value in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, if anything, Tim Burton, it was the other way around.
And I mean, in all fairness, my favorite Tim Burton movies, he wasn't really even in. That's not really the point. But it's just that was never the point. It wasn't like he was Tim Burton's Birkin handbag walking down the street. It's just ridiculous.
Yep. All right. Well, here we go.
Amber Heard is 20 years younger, and
of course, we always got to say how young she was. She had no decision of her own to make those decisions. She was so young to make those decisions to date Johnny. Oh my God, what a monster taking advantage of her.
Is building a career and name recognition within Hollywood.
Wait, what? Now more bias. She was building a career name. Nobody knew who she was.
But she was certainly nowhere near the star that Johnny Depp was.
Amber Heard and Johnny Depp met like most celebrity couples do. They were met while making a project. They made this movie called The Rum Diary.
Meeting an actress like Amber Heard, she's of another era, you know.
I noticed that everybody smiled when you walked on set, and I thought, this is a good sign.
Actually, it wasn't until...
Which is weird. It goes against her testimony, right? That he was harassing her and everything else. She's totally two-faced.
2011, two years later...
Yeah, good sign that he was made of money and I could use him.
Exactly. She totally played him.
The ladder. Yeah.
As it happens in Hollywood all the time. This idea that women like Amber Heard, who are not talented, let's be honest, she's not a talented actress. No one's ever called her one. This idea that she wasn't riding the ladder because of Johnny, why do you skip all that part?
That they took the relationship to the next level.
Eyes up right here!
The press lapped it up because people love good-looking Hollywood duos together, and these two fit the bill.
I did notice something on your hand. Oh, the other one. Is that an engagement ring?
In 2015, they got married, and they had a big, luxurious wedding on one of Johnny Depp's private islands. Yeah, it was mostly good.
Were you there, dude? I thought this guy's reporting.
I'm trying to think. Until it got bad. Only a year later did Amber Heard file for divorce.
The actor's estranged wife saying she's a victim of domestic abuse. She's seen leaving court with visible bruises, asking a judge for a restraining order.
She went to the
Which,
courthouse.
by the way, she could have used the back door, as
Yes.
Mr. Melcher's explained.
Yes.
She didn't have to use that public exit.
Correct.
Her.
And I didn't want to hear about TMZ because they have been alerted.
No, they're just gonna, I mean, granted, this is what the world thought back then, but now we know, and the documentary you'd think would educate that, yes, she could, and they know this, NBC knows this, they know there's multiple exits out of that building, and she chose to do this publicly, but they're protecting her. Again, mainstream media, Kat. You know there are multiple exits. If you don't know that, go ask somebody, because you should do better journalism. There's multiple exits. She chose to come out that front door and make this a spectacle. And now your own news organization is not even calling that out?
with a bruise on her face.
Johnny Depp's team said that she was just trying to expedite the process by filing this domestic restraining order and that it actually had no merit. It was pretty remarkable the speed at which they actually reached a divorce settlement, and it was for $7 million for Amber Heard.
She had pledged all of that money.
She pledged. Look at they're already using her words. She pledged all that money. Here she is back in Amber. You know she's an Amber stan if she's using a word. She pledged the money.
Two charities, the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles and the ACLU, and they had a joint statement.
I can't even. Did she really do that?
For Amber Heard.
She had pledged all of that money to two charities.
She just said that with a straight face. She just said that to a straight face. She pledged all the money. Oh my God, girl.
Children's Hospital of Los Angeles and the ACLU, and they
For the people who don't know, I think you all know. She said she donated the money to the sick kids, and then later in the courtroom revealed, well, I pledged it. I haven't been able to because I'm suing Johnny. Meanwhile, she had the $7 million in her hands for 13 months before she was sued. No excuses. No excuses.
Was quoted on television saying $7 million was donated and split between.
I wanted nothing.
I wanted nothing.
Yeah.
It had a joint statement released at the time that neither party in the case was lying for financial gain.
Yeah, because Johnny was actually being nice. Johnny was trying to help her. Johnny shouldn't have. But now in seeing the whole picture, Johnny was the victim. And so he was trying to make it go away. And you can't, and people like Kat and everybody else, they just can't see it.
Tonight, fallen Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein expected to face charges.
A year after their divorce settlement was reached, became the Me Too movement.
Women will be silent no more.
We saw a lot of people who had been living with the secrets and the shame for a very long time, feeling power in numbers.
Amber Heard penned an op-ed for the Washington Post in which she talked about being a survivor of domestic violence. She never actually named her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, in the op-ed.
The phrase that she used was, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, but the timeline insinuates who she's discussing.
So even the Amber supporter acknowledges, yeah, she's talking about Johnny. We all knew that. And what's so important is they could have reiterated, she signed a settlement agreement where she said she wouldn't talk about it. It was all over. Johnny, Amber moved on. Johnny didn't do this. Amber did this during Me Too. And notice how NBC just glosses over the other sort of coin of it, of like, during the heightened Me Too era, Amber suddenly goes against her own settlement order to put this out. Why?
Johnny Depp filed for defamation in Fairfax County, Virginia.
He argues because of the allegations, his career has suffered.
He sued her for $50 million, and she said, fine, I'll sue you for $100 million. Amber Heard's counterclaim is that he defamed her through his attorney, Adam Waldman, who accused her of creating an abuse hoax.
Which is all true, by the way. Adam Waldman got totally sandbagged, and that's a video I should be working on while I'm out next week. Because I'm going to be out for a week. That's one to remind me, Steph. We should do that video about reminding people that he totally got sandbagged.
Yeah.
Now, the trial kicks off at 10 a.m. this morning here at the Fairfax County Courthouse.
And the great news is that
I like that they just sort of glossed over the UK trial. I mean, it's a whole other big part of this case. I'm shocked they didn't even mention it. And there's so much to that, of the fact that where it even begin, but so much corruption in that and bullshit. And you go through the UK verdict. He didn't take any evidence. He just believed her. And now so much has come forward where it's like, well, wait a second. How can you believe that when these witnesses said this? It's unbelievable.
We're going to watch it all unfold in real time.
So who were you here to support? Johnny Depp. I've been coming since it started. This is for all my Johnny Depp fans out there. I say hi to him before he pulled in for court.
100 people were allowed in each day, and they were given wristbands.
Oh, so you know you have an unbiased documentary when you're interviewing Elaine Bredehoff.
Wow.
So here's her, I guess, third interview.
To be able to come in.
And they were fighting the battle in the court of...
She's really arguing the fact that they had risk. Yeah, he's a celebrity. They both are. Let's be clear. Elaine, aren't they both celebrities? Celebrity trials going to entice people to come in.
Public opinion just as much as they were fighting inside the courtroom.
The Depp Heard case was a civil defamation suit. Civil suit meaning it's for money.
They're both public figures. There's a higher standard of defamation at play. It's about whether you maliciously went after this person with a reckless disregard of the truth.
Truth is an absolute defense to a defamation claim. The question was Ms. Heard telling the truth when she generally claimed to be a victim of abuse? Having the cameras in the courtroom sensationalizes everything. It becomes a soap opera of sorts.
It doesn't sensationalize. I mean, it makes sure the truth is exposed, and yeah, nothing can be hidden. Why are people opposed to that? Courts of law lie all the time. We learned it from Britney. They're corrupt. There's no corruption if you let us see it.
The other thing too, I mean, the main network that had access to that courtroom was Court TV. And I mean, I've watched them cover cases that are much more intense and graphic and violent at points. And, you know, watching my words because of YouTube of people being unalived and all those other types of things. And I understand that there's a different element here because of celebrity, but there definitely is a level here that people want accountability with their court systems. People want to see what's going on behind those closed doors because they are paying for the law system, and they want to make sure that their lawmakers and their judges and everybody else are playing by the rules that they've all agreed to.
Facts.
Through voting. And they have every right to ask that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were cameras, people could edit videos online into TikToks, into rapid fire Twitter videos, and watch it almost like a gladiator ceremony. It reminded me of the OJ case, you know, in which you had all the world essentially watching what was an extremely disturbing trial. And this was an extremely disturbing trial.
This was a defamation case.
But you know what the difference is? They were all watching mainstream media, so you guys were happy with it at the time.
Yep.
No crying, no complaining, this, that, and the other. Now you've got, quote unquote, one of the trials of the centuries, all right?
And they weren't covering it live.
Yeah.
Well said.
And now you got some real competition when it comes to new media with YouTube, TikTok, and everything else.
It's
you're gonna start complaining about sensationalizing and everything else when that's what the mainstream media have been doing for solid freaking years. They of course sensationalized the freaking OJ trial. I mean, the chase itself in that white Bronco, how sensationalized was that? That was all mainstream media's doing. Freaking stones in glass houses, this documentary. What the frick?
I'm trying to find it. I can't. My God, if you want to talk about sensationalizing, all you got to do is watch any clip of Jay Leno on NBC during the OJ trial, the dancing Judge Ito's, and my God, you want to? I can't find it because it's so old, but it was Jay Leno was like so gross about the OJ trial, which was a murder case. Like, it was really bad. And here NBC had Jay Leno, literally, there was a point guy, correct me if anyone else dating myself. Does anyone else remember the dancing Ito's on Jay Leno? Oh, but what we're doing with Amber, oh, blasphemy. I mean, they're such hypocrites. They're such hypocrites, I can't even.
And before you knew it, we had all of these elements of domestic violence introduced.
Do you remember the first time that he physically hit you?
Yes. She was asking him about a tattoo he had altered because it initially said Winona Forever. Winona Ryder was famously one of his ex-girlfriends.
And I said, what does it say? And he said it says Wino. I just laughed because I thought he was joking. And slapped me across the face.
But the cameras in the courtroom, I believe, also had an effect on the testimonies themselves, because these are two actors at the end of the day, right?
Hold on, I just so I'm clear. Yes, so many parodies and jokes. You can Google it. I can't find it on YouTube per se, but yes, there was tons of it. So they've just forgotten that this has always been the case.
Said, you think it's so funny? You think it's funny, bitch? You think you're a funny bitch. And he slapped me again.
And the entire argument on Depp's legal team was them saying that she is going to be giving the biggest performance of her life during her testimony.
I just stared at him because I didn't know what else to do. And he slaps me one more time. Hard.
If Miss Heard could prove that any
Like the other
single
two weren't
event-
hard. What the
So
hell?
they're not mentioning, and you think they're going to mention any mention of the audio tapes?
No. No, we're not
occurred
talking about that.
and constituted abuse, then in theory she should successfully defeat the defamation claim.
Now, that's true. Christopher Melcher said it on our channel because we're not biased. This was a hard case for Johnny to win. He still won because she was that bad.
Now she took a bit of the kitchen sink approach and put on
bit?
evidence
A
of
bit.
various incidents of alleged abuse.
This lawyer guy is such a sham. I need to look this guy up. I don't know what his background is, but my God, what a biased lawyer.
After you said, let's drown her before we burn her, Mr. Depp, you said, I will fuck her burnt corpse afterwards to
They
make
didn't even bleep it. Oh, NBC, come on. That was a private text exchange. Yeah, I don't like it. He acknowledged it. Are you gonna play all the gross Amber things?
sure she is dead.
Or are you just gonna try you're just gonna try and show Johnny the worst light possible? The few littlest worst parts of Johnny is what they're gonna show. Go ahead, Kim.
Just something I want to say. I mean, we said from the very beginning that we were not happy with those text messages. We weren't going to sit here and defend it, that it was acceptable. It is understandable at points when you start to unpack it and you look at what's called the Monty Python defense or whatever. But again, the second that Johnny got on that stand, he apologized for those and admitted that they were wrong. Can you please point me to any time during this trial in which Amber Heard admitted that she did something wrong and apologized?
Nope.
Because the thing is, we have audio tapes of her saying that she hit him, that she abused him. And I feel like everybody kind of ignores that and they go, but the text messages. Text messages are not an admission of guilt, guys.
Well, let's hope they play the audio tapes, the audio messages, because they're really leaning in hard on all the things Johnny did.
Did I read that right?
You certainly did, yes.
A large part of Amber Heard's case and defense has been communications from Johnny Depp about Amber Heard.
Hopefully, that cunt's rotting corpse is decomposing in the fucking trunk of a...
It's unreal. They did this unedited because they could, just to F with everybody and make it seem worse.
Honda Civic.
He says that it was an appeal to dark humor in a dark time.
He did his best to explain his personality and to try to get sympathy from the jury and from the public at large.
Johnny Depp took to the stand and he talked about his childhood, and he talked about the abuse that he suffered at the hands of his mother.
She was quite violent, and she was quite cruel.
He would later go on to testify, saying that my father...
I love how we're getting a super dumb documentary recapped by a bunch of morons instead of them actually editing the people themselves saying it out loud. This is where we are as a culture. But yet we're the misinformation. Oh, but let's listen to the editor of People magazine to just tell us instead of hearing it from Johnny directly.
Stayed with my mother, and I wanted to do the same.
You start to slowly realize that you are in a relationship with your mother.
The entire reason he's taking his ex-wife to court is to clear his name.
Today is actually the first opportunity that I've been able to speak about this in full for the first time.
He said, I've never had the opportunity to address this. Yes, he did in the UK.
No, not
Oh, here we go.
publicly.
So
not
now
publicly.
we're not gonna-
Not publicly.
We're not gonna play the tapes. Now we're gonna go back. So they've just totally oh my God, they just crucified him already. Like, listen to these disgusting things. And now they're like, well, now let's go back and tell you how even worse it was, guys.
No, but no. Okay, something I just want to say right now about the UK trial that drives me insane, and this is something I've actually spoken to Laura B about, because Laura fully called in to that court every day of the UK. Laura has heard more of the UK case than the average person on this planet because she had access to be able to get in there and hear it. 99% of us here, probably on this watching or whatever, did not hear the things that Laura heard. And Laura was very blunt about the inconsistencies, all of those other things, and the fact that, yes, you could hear what was going on, but nobody else could. So yeah, this was the first time Johnny had a public platform to defend himself for all of these people who have been judging him for years to hear what he had to say. Elaine, there's nothing wrong with what he said there. I don't understand that.
Well, yeah, she's, again, even her being in this documentary, again, shows its bias.
It was a little different than this trial because Johnny Depp was not suing his ex-wife. Johnny Depp was suing a tabloid newspaper for calling him a quote-unquote wife beater in an article. So Johnny Depp's team had to prove that he was not a wife beater, and he lost the UK trial for defamation.
The judge found that Mr. Depp had committed at least 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. We were deprived of ever bringing in the fact that there was a judgment against Mr. Depp.
Because it wasn't about Amber. It was a completely unrelated case, and it was the UK verdict, which is different laws. And also, it was a different case because the judge there had to make a sort of deciding thing of like, well, is this defamation on this? It wasn't actually, the judge wasn't saying he was a wife beater. He was just saying, based on the evidence, I don't have enough, because I wasn't there, to really say definitively that it didn't happen. It's really how I take what really happened in the UK. Because the judge couldn't really fully do it. And then but wait, where it gets even worse, like that's the worst case for Johnny, right? Of what my explanation of how that happened. But where it gets worse is in his verdict, like the breakdown, which he did a long breakdown, he literally admits to ignoring cops, witnesses, Amber's own assistants, all these people that negated a lot of those cases. He just threw them away. Nah, doesn't matter. There's an instance we talked about with black belt barrister who's in the UK, who was literally like, yeah, no, this is completely nonsense. They're filing for an appeal in UK because it's just blasphemous what happened. And he literally had assistance of Amber acknowledging that she perjured herself. She was telling them to lie for Australia, another whole incident. And the judge is like, well, she never technically lied, but asking these people to lie doesn't go against her character, so, it made no sense. She literally told her assistants to lie to her to Australia in bringing in dogs. He also lied about the money. Oh, well, this isn't the sign of a gold digger who would give away $7 million to charity. So therefore, I'm going to pass. These are the types of decisions this judge was making, completely biased, ignoring things. And then you dig deeper and you realize, oh, his son works for Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Sun. Huh. Something was fishy. So the UK verdict is complete nonsense, and thank God it wasn't brought in, but it's the only talking point Elaine keeps bringing back and forth, because it's the only thing she can say.
Evidence that came in
She can't say that
but did
anyway,
not come in
Andy.
the US was a lot of consistent text messages and emails. There's a text message from Stephen Duders, his assistant, to Amber, in which he says, Johnny's awake now. He doesn't remember anything. When I told him he kicked you, he cried. There was emails and text messages throughout, including to her doctor, including to the nurses. Those were all kept out.
The evidence.
That's also bullshit, because there's audio tape that was kept out in Australia where we could hear the doctors acknowledge that Amber cut off his finger. There's also text messages from Amber's own family members, her parents, saying, siding with Johnny in all of it. There's image of her, a testimony of her sister who told her boss that Amber was the one who pushed her down the stairs and would constantly hit her. Elaine's just full of shit because, of all this evidence. Yeah, what about all the other evidence? All right, fine. Evidence wiped each other out because there was evidence on both sides, one could argue, through hearsay, and neither of which were brought in. It's complete bullshit, this argument.
Came in that should come in, and the judge was very fair to both sides.
Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, in this case, were the parties. They had different disclosure obligations.
Depp's team wanted to demonize Amber every way they can.
Oh, but they didn't want to demonize Johnny.
Oh! Elaine, I heard you go on for weeks demonizing everyone that's ever struggled with addiction in their lives. I don't want to hear that from you. Please, no.
Yeah, you deal with you partake in illicit substances, therefore you are a monster.
But don't look at it when my client does it. Don't look at it when my client does it. It's fine.
She can't even bring up the Sun trial now because at the end of the day, Scotty Yard is investigating Amber Heard on freaking perjury charges anyway for it all. So, damn right, it shouldn't have been included in this.
And let's also stay tuned. Make sure if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because you're going to want to not miss it. Hit the bell for alerts. Smash the like button. We got a lot of you people watching. Smash that like button right now. Leave a comment. But you're not going to miss it because, yes, they are now unsealing all of the documents in the Virginia case. And I can't imagine this is something that Elaine did not want to happen. Why? I wonder, Elaine, what are you hiding? Didn't want cameras, didn't want things unsealed. Well, we'll find out soon as more and more gets reported. They're still being unsealed by the minute. We don't have them yet. But yes, we will talk about some of this stuff as it happens, so be prepared. But important to know. But yeah, let's hear from the trustworthy Elaine.
At the same time, try to suppress any of the evidence of Mr. Depp's domestic violence. There were therapy notes that go back to 2011 when Amber Heard was...
Notes that go back there, not taken in 2011, from a doctor who Elaine told something to. That doesn't mean it happened, Elaine.
First dating Mr. Depp. Detailed notes 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. To see that contemporaneous reporting all those years would have been very, very powerful, in my view, to a jury. But none of that came in because the judge determined that those were out-of-court statements.
Any good trial attorney, I think both sides
And
did.
also, we've talked about this on the show before, therapists are mandatory reporters.
Yep.
If they have reason to believe that someone is being abused, if their life is in danger, if there is something happening, they have to do something.
And they didn't.
So sorry?
And they didn't.
And they didn't. So my whole thing is, if that really is the case, I have questions about the credibility of the therapist to begin with. Because they did something that in many cases could completely threaten their license to practice, period. But it's just, there's so many questions about how the whole thing went down and what was being said. It doesn't make any sense. And honestly, I think that's part of why they weren't allowed to come into court, because they weren't credible when you start looking at it from that perspective.
But Kim, right? Even if the court was like, yeah, let them in, let those therapist notes in, right? She wouldn't have had the freaking time to reference them or deal with them anyway. Because by the end of the freaking trial, the literal final argument, she literally had 1 minute left. Because the judge turns around and says, oh, you've got 1 minute left. Really? But what about, no, I've taken all that into account. You've got 1 minute left. Say your final piece and that's that.
And maybe she would have had more if she
every minute.
They wasted
anyway,
so much time.
So even if they were admitted, she would have had time to go to therapist notes anyway because she focused on everything else.
No, we were too busy talking about Amica cream, muffins, and not being able to turn a microphone on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the days.
Oh, and hearsay, objection, hearsay. To their own damn questions as well, mind you.
But you asked the question. She is as full of shit as a Christmas goose.
If they're going to develop a theme from Mr. Depp's perspective, their theme throughout was that I am not the abuser.
Never did I myself
They're going to get a theme. You mean the truth?
reach the point of striking Miss Heard in any way, nor have I ever struck any woman.
If anything, I'm the one who was abused.
And he goes, why are you accusing me of domestic violence when I should be the one accusing you? Mm-hmm. Yep, the plot thickens. The plot thickens.
Why did we watch that weird, stupid TikTok? I call them TikToks now.
A man has, he has to
But again, that person seemingly was mocking Johnny, so I guess it happened both sides.
live within a system and a society that does not believe that he can be a victim. Men do not traditionally come forward.
Yeah.
Miss Heard, in her frustration and in her rage and her anger, she would strike out.
Of all the domestic violence victims, you know, it's 85% women and 15% men. I do believe strongly that men are underreported.
And then they basically spent the remainder of the trial just trying to
wonder
poke
why.
as many holes.
She
and
is the
many...
first person in this documentary that's actually speaking any freaking sense.
Well, you're gonna lose faith with her soon. Don't worry, because she believes Amber.
Shit.
Get ready.
Right.
Ms. Heard's stories as they possibly could.
She said that she was going to give all of her divorce proceedings to charity.
You have not donated $7 million of your divorce settlement to charity, right?
I have not been able to fulfill those obligations yet.
I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was
There we
hitting
go.
you.
Another audio clip, she appeared to be mocking him over his claims of being abused by her.
Okay, here we go. Thank God.
Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence. And
Yes.
it's a fair fight. It's these how many people believe or side with you.
It was really hard as a viewer who advocates for victims of domestic violence to learn that Heard had used that social bias, that misconception in a manipulative way.
With all due respect, I wasn't saying it because he's a man. I was saying it because he's a man who beat me up for 5 years.
Oh, fuck you. You spin master.
Mr. Depp is your victim, isn't he?
No, ma'am.
Depp's legal team brought forth their former couples counselor.
There was
They just glossed over that. Do you notice? All these people are just completely glossed over and there's more tapes. Just completely glossed over it.
My favorite moment. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite moment, and this is kind of one of the pieces I kind of bring out when I'm like, if people are asking me like why I believe Johnny and that type of thing, and I just say, well, did you watch her testimony and did you watch the cross-examination? And I always, and normally the answer is no. And then I say, well, there's literally a point in there where Camille is showing pictures of her the day after apparently her nose was broken.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Camille says like, your nose doesn't appear to be broken. And she's like, that's what ice takes away all the swelling and makeup. It's all ice and makeup. And Camille's like, less than 24 hours later though, no, it has to come through. And then she kind of like goes, well, it felt like my nose was broken. That told me everything I needed to know.
I would pay money to put some of these people who believe Amber to actually sit and make them watch some of that stuff and justify it. Because they didn't. They won't watch it and they won't. And that's the clips like that. There's so many of them that they're making a mockery of victims and discrediting all of us. When it's a perfect example, Kim.
Toward Amber, correct?
Yes, you're right. With Ms. Heard, he was triggered and they engaged in what I saw as mutual abuse.
I will tell you, in all my years, I've never heard the term, ever. When we're talking about domestic violence, we're talking about a primary aggressor. In the context of retaliatory abuse, sometimes it's you beginning that exchange. But until you're in a situation in which someone is hurting you, you don't understand the dynamics that are at play there.
I was the love of my life, but he was also this other thing. And that other thing was awful.
Here it is. Play this out of context.
Members of the public.
Oh my God, no context to it. No, did you see that? They love using that clip as B-roll to show him as a monster and not add the context of he lost $500 million from his account stealing. And he was alone in his kitchen. And she burst in and made that all about her. I was not fighting you last night. I don't know what she knew exactly what she was doing. He was really struggling. He was really upset. And he was destroying his kitchen on his own. And she, who's so afraid of the monster, decides to walk in. And in that environment, I'm sorry, I hate to generalize victims, but my God, who does that? That is insane.
Look at recordings as being a little bit underhanded.
You got this going? Oh, really?
It just goes to the overarching question of which party had the jurors' trust.
Amber Heard has submitted quite a few photos into evidence of her injured.
With respect to photos of Miss Heard,
Alleged.
I think that the jury
Allegedly
most likely
injured.
found the testimony of the gentleman from TMZ to be very compelling.
Ms. Heard was filing a restraining order at a courthouse in downtown Los Angeles. So I dispatched camera people to that location. We would only ever send people there if we had been tipped off.
And the TMZ former employee effectively said that that was staged. When jurors see that, they're going to lose a lot of faith in anything else that's presented visually
as they should.
or otherwise.
I did not call TMZ
Also
or
about
any
the ownership
other
of the
news source.
video.
Yep.
That was huge as well.
Yep.
Many questions there.
And he proved that right here on Popcorn Planet.
Yep.
They screwed themselves. They shot themselves in foot when they tried to copyright.
They copyrighted the video and said they owned it when I posted
And
that
the other
clip.
thing I would argue too, I don't think sat well with the jury either, was all of these randos coming up being completely badgered by Elaine, going, you know, you just wanted your 15 minutes of fame being here, when they were people that had every right to be there and share their side. That doesn't look good with the jury either.
Nope.
But we're not going to talk about that.
No one.
Unfortunately for Miss Heard's camp, some of the more graphic, significant events were the ones that I think were most hotly contested.
The night in Australia, there's still so many questions about this fight, which, allegedly led to Johnny Depp's fingertip being severed. He alleges that she threw 2 vodka bottles at him.
It made contact and shattered everywhere. And then I looked down and realized that the tip of my finger had been severed.
Amber Heard has said on the stand she doesn't have a clear recollection of how things unfolded, but she has alleged that he sexually assaulted her.
And also that he took an entire bag of MDMA and was somehow able to function.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at such a serious thing, but her summary of it was so how did she say that with a straight face? Amber doesn't remember any of the details, but then suddenly remembered that she was sexually assaulted. Like some producer told her to basically say that to sum this up as quickly as possible. And the way she just said it, again, how do you forget that? How on earth would you forget that? That is insane.
With a bottle.
In all honesty, there are some times where trauma happens and the brain turns off and you don't have memory of it. But the whole thing, it's the inconsistencies of a lot, of things that she's saying. And
she remembers everything, Kim.
When it's convenient.
Yes.
It's convenient. When it's convenient, she does. But it's also just the reality of the physical evidence not adding up, as well as the audio tapes that we have, with witnesses that are there, questions about the phone on the wall. There's all types of things here that are issues.
I felt this pressure. On my pubic bone. He said he was punching me. I just saw his arm. I could feel his arm moving.
I don't need to watch this again.
In the trial that should have never come out so publicly.
I didn't know if the bottle that he had inside me was broken.
Oh, they've skipped everything. They've skipped everything, but now they're gonna show this because oh my God, how do we ignore? Again, how can you believe she made this shit up? This is this, and there's so much out of this. This didn't come out until later. This all came out later.
I don't know if he would know if it was broken or not, and I just remember thinking, please God, please. I hope it's not broken.
Survivors have reached out. They have been triggered. I know that myself, I got triggered.
My back was towards you, but you hit me in the face.
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
A lot of times jurors, whether male or female jurors...
I want to say for the record, I saw no one making fun of the bottle story. No. I didn't see it once. They did a very clever, we were mocking that story. Writer, I don't believe that story happened for the record, but I've never mocked it or made that part of jokes. I think it's absurd and it's a disrespect to victims because I'm sorry, you didn't know if it was broken or not. You remember all these details, but you don't remember that? It doesn't make sense. And then that whole event happened on audio tape because in the Australia audio, you had a doctor and a nurse who show up right afterwards. And I'm sorry, if that was a even non-broken bottle, there would be some damage. There were broken glass she's crawling on. All this stuff she was crying about, we knew was bullshit because doctors and nurses showed up and were recorded unaware. They were recorded without their knowledge. The audio tape is there, and Dr. Kipper and Nurse Debbie There's no way on earth. There's no way on earth that even if they were Team Johnny Depp till death, in private, they would have treated Amber if she was injured in that moment. I believe it wholeheartedly. So there's no way you can tell me otherwise. They would have reacted to her. She would have been bloody. She would have been hurt. They would have been, oh God, what did Johnny do? There would have been something on that audio tape to acknowledge the story Amber just told. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. There's no proof of it. Instead, she's walking around like nothing happened. I'm sorry, that makes no sense. And it's a disrespect, and I don't want to keep talking about that story, but it's just sickening. That's what they focus on.
Only other thing I just want to add here is I love how they're not talking about that allegedly Amber used Kate James's story of being assaulted at one point.
That didn't get to come in, did it, Elaine?
And that didn't get to come in. That didn't get to come in.
Interesting. That would have been an interesting thing to tell a jury,
but
too.
The woman that she allegedly spat in the face of and tried to make her take the fall in Australia, she also took her abuse story. Forgive me for not, immediately believing everything coming out of her mouth.
They don't want to see a woman cry. They don't find it believable.
Here she is being forced to recount all these things. And what do they say? Oh, she cried. What's wrong with these people?
No, that's actually not what people said at all.
Oh my God, what's wrong with these people?
She didn't freaking cry.
She didn't.
There was no bloody
There
emotion.
was no tears. There was no cry ever, Elaine. Nice spin after the fact. She never cried.
Even though past contentious court cases have been televised, there hasn't been TikTok, and there wasn't.
Oh my God, there was The Tonight Show. There was Saturday Night Live. Everybody made fun of the OJ trial. What planet were you on? My God.
Twitter to cover these trials in real time. That really changed the course of this trial.
The jurors were not sequestered. The judge would instruct them each night not to do any additional research.
This is a long proceeding spanning 2 months. I just think it's unrealistic to think that the jurors stayed off of social media.
And once you're on them, you can't avoid it.
This monster of algorithms at play.
So again, I said it before, but I just want to make sure I say it again since we're watching this. Elaine, they could look up your mountain of evidence too. Right? Wasn't there all this, the UK verdict, all this stuff you keep trying to say would have made the difference? Wouldn't the juries have looked that up too? Huh? Oh, right, they would have. Oh, but you're so worried of them going online to hear the Johnny truth? Make up your mind. Which one is it?
Play, where even if you've never followed Amber Heard or Johnny Depp, you were inundated on your social media feeds with aspects of this trial.
And so the way that people got so much of the action from the courtroom was through these videos on social media platforms.
TikTok just went crazy. The ability to do short films mocking someone or giving your opinion about something is what TikTok is, and they certainly did.
What about the last 6
Headbutting
years
square in the
of
nose.
mainstream media pummeling the narrative in front of everyone that Johnny's the monster and Amber's the victim? Oh, no. We're not going to talk about that bias from the mainstream media that's still continuing, obviously, to this day. Oh, no. Hypocritical pieces of shiz is the lot of us.
The breadth and depth of what we've seen, and particularly the attacks and abuse aimed at Ms. Heard, is something remarkable. Can you imagine?
What about the attacks and abuse aimed at Johnny?
Well, here, wait.
Oh, come on.
You was just going to say, listen to this.
Is something remarkable. Can you imagine being a survivor and seeing the mockery that she's endured?
Yes.
If you actually...
And Johnny was the victim. Let's not forget it.
Watch it live on YouTube.
Here
There's
we
a
go.
live
Here we go.
feed.
My debu's
and
coming.
Every comment I saw while I was watching it for 6 weeks were pro-Depp.
If you want to go viral.
He just acknowledged that all the feeds, Law and Crime, that just showed the trial, it was all pro-Depp. Yeah, because they were watching the trial. That's pretty telling, no? Is it not, people editor?
You're going to want to talk about the events in favor of Johnny Depp.
I really think it has a lot to do.
If you're going to want to talk about the events, you're going to want to be positive Johnny Depp. because every time I say something for Amber, they just roast me online. I don't get it. I don't want to go do the homework and watch the trial. I just want to support Amber. And every time I go on Twitter and support her, they roast me. I don't get it.
With Johnny Depp wanting the cameras to be in the room in the first place, I think he was aware of the public's perception of him.
No.
Johnny Depp was a star.
That's such bullshit too. He didn't want the cameras in.
No.
Again, misinformation by NBC and everybody else. He did not request them in. Because they wanted full transparency, Judge Penny was saying, all right, we'll allow it. And Johnny said, okay. And then Elaine was like, well, no. Judge Penny made it happen, not on a request by Johnny. Johnny just accepted it. And then Elaine refused it. And then at that point, Judge said, well, no, we're just going to put it in. Sorry. Again, more misinformation from the mainstream media, Kat. Good job.
It was a lot of people's first crush. And so there is a parasocial attachment that adds another layer of investment.
Oh my God, this woman, I'm sorry, you are so dumb. Really? You're going to generalize all the support of Depp as people who had a crush on him and that's why they're doing this? I mean, that is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. You are a moron if that's really your justification for believing Amber. I don't have a crush on Johnny Depp, girl. Kim, Steph, do you have a crush on Johnny Depp? Is this why you're supporting it? Is your parasocial relationship?
No, I don't have a crush on Johnny Depp. I won't say no. He's
good looking dude.
He's a good looking dude, of course. I would say no. I'd be cool for a cuddle and whatnot. But am I supporting him because I stan him and fancying him all out? No, I support him because the truth shows he is the victim and Amber is the monster, and we all in the survivorship community need to stick together, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arms, and turn around to the monsters and everyone that don't believe us, tell them, oh, go do one and get the nearest cactus.
Yeah. I also would argue saying that everybody that supported Johnny Depp was because they had a crush on Johnny Depp is a tad misogynistic in itself.
Yep. You think?
But okay.
Yeah.
I bet you she follows Eve Barlow, yeah.
93% of the accounts posting have been in favor of Johnny Depp.
Okay, how about maybe, shouldn't that tell you something, Kat? Maybe there's more to it than your ignorant brain is allowing you to think.
I did not expect for my TikToks to get over 6 million views. It's been great to see that so many people are on his side and so many people agree with me and think that, you know, she is a liar and a bad actress.
You also had segments of YouTube that had never covered anything even close to this trial, all of a sudden pivoting, people going from fewer than 100,000 subscribers to over 500,000 subscribers in a matter of weeks.
I really don't know anything about this.
In any really big case, you'll see a lot of fascinating kind of banding together of people.
Hang on.
There are people who...
That was Pokemon.
Yeah.
She's already a massive freaking social media YouTube star with over like 6 million subscribers.
Correct.
You can't just go and say you've got YouTubers or whatever that started off with 100,000 subscribers and all of a sudden they've over 500,000 and then pivot to freaking Pokemon, who at the start of the trial was already into the freaking millions anyway. She was already over 6 million subscribers at the start of the trial. That's a proper misrepresentation, not only of what they just said, but of Pokemon. I'd be pissed if I were Pokemon right now. That's insane.
I don't think she cares. I mean, I'm just like, I don't really, but it's
but
but it's, again, good point. And again, more tech and digital misinterpretation, Kat, NBC.
I really don't know anything about this.
In any
They're just trying to make her
really
sound
big
dumb.
Case,
And that's the, okay, hang on, can we pause it here? Okay, so would that not be like you're trying to make a woman look stupid?
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you think that goes? I don't understand.
Feels misogynistic to me.
Yeah, but the thing is with Pokimane, like respect where respect is due. I don't follow her. I've actually never really watched any of her content, but she has like 8 million subs herself. She's got a net worth, I just looked it up, like $6 million. She knows exactly what she's doing, and people care about her opinion. Why is she not allowed to share that?
Yeah, and it was a huge story that I'm sure people were asking her, what are your thoughts on the Johnny Depp trial? And so she did a video on it. Okay, who cares? Everybody did a video on it. Why are you guys still talking? Why are you guys still talking about it? It's over. And yet here you are making all this content, continuing it, and now you're making us make content. You're extending your 15 minutes as well.
Fascinating kind of banding together of people. There are people who love Johnny Depp and genuinely adore him and think that he is a great man and are very worried about him.
You also have men's rights factions of the internet contributing to this conversation.
Men's rights factions.
Along with people who love true crime.
You have
all these men's rights factions, all these people who only will stand with Depp no matter what. And then you have true crime experts, all of them chiming in on this case.
Domestic abuse survivors who don't feel like Amber Heard was a reflection of them.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on Amber Heard?
I myself am a survivor of domestic abuse, and I felt like I could see right through when she was on the stand.
I mean, no offense to this woman. Like, could you ask 5 other people too and not keep coming back to her? It's so lazy because they just want to interview 5 people and then chop together their narrative is what they did here. It makes no sense.
Say that manipulation that they do.
I'd like to remind us all that all victims are not the same. Ms. Heard is what we would call the imperfect victim. As a society, we have a stereotype of what a victim of domestic violence looks like.
You weren't scared of him at all, were you?
This is a man who tried to kill me. Of course it's scary.
They usually have the battered bruises.
There aren't any medical records reflecting that you sought medical treatment for any of these injuries, are there?
I did not seek medical treatment after Australia, no.
Not for the rape?
No, I did not want to tell anyone.
It is a certain amount of crying, but not too much. A certain amount of anger, but not too much.
Victims and survivors of domestic violence each are different, and they have different experiences. There is no perfect victim.
Okay, but she lied.
Including Johnny Depp.
Yeah, what about Johnny? Is Johnny a victim? That woman, I would have loved if they actually asked that. What an amazing documentary to have her actually comment on both sides and Johnny and give her insight on Johnny. No, but no.
She's not a perfect victim, therefore she's telling the truth.
You didn't take pictures.
What kind of freaking
It
logic
didn't
is that?
happen. If you did take pictures, they're fake. If you didn't tell your friends, you're lying. And if you did tell your friends, they're part of the hoax.
Now, if this guy really believed that, why isn't he doing interviews right now? Why is he not in your documentary? Oh, right, because he doesn't even believe it. He's literally just doing his job and did everything in his power to do it. And I got no problem with Rottenborn. Good for him for moving on and not being part of the circus anymore of the Amber show. He did his best. He had to. It was his client. He was paid. That's what a lawyer does. Elaine's still keeping this going. Rottenborn didn't. And so you're going to play this clip like, oh, yep, now all victims are in trouble.
Litigants each really tapped in pretty explicitly to the larger social media and the cultural narratives that have been surrounding the case.
No woman ever before Amber Heard ever claimed that Mr. Depp raised a hand to her. This is Me Too without any Me Too.
The verdict is in. They're gonna read it at 3 o'clock.
All right.
Elaine looks scared. I've never noticed it.
We have a verdict?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I love this. Is so revealing. This is again reminding. This is their breaking news reporter, and she's like, "Oh, the verdict just came in," and then it's not just come in. She missed the delay. She's literally been. The verdict came in, and she was filming this interview for NBC, and now is scrolling through later to catch up. Like, excuse me. Your breaking news reporter wasn't like in front of a computer ready to report the story?
Delivered, delayed. He won. Okay.
Look how disappointed she is.
That's going to be an interesting fallout for a lot of domestic abuse survivors.
Piss off, you cowpox.
I think from Mr. Depp's perspective, his legal team put on an incredible case and pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
They pulled a rabbit out of a hat. So he just admit, oh, they just pulled a trick on you. They didn't do the truth. That was just a trick. Is what this lawyer just said.
It's apparent from the jury's verdict, they didn't believe anything she said.
So how was that a rabbit out of a hat?
The jury awarded Johnny Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive. So, but then they also awarded $2 million to Amber.
So here we have the breaking news reporter literally reading an article as the way to inform us in your documentary, who's clearly biased and has no idea what the actual verdict was. She's just going to read a headline on her phone, and this is the end of your documentary.
Heard in compensatory damages. So then, if the counterclaim says that she never committed an abuse hoax, then I don't understand how you could have both things be true.
I have been
Because you haven't read the whole statement.
Because you didn't do your work, breaking news reporter.
Oh my God.
To the TV for the last 6 weeks. So it will be nice to get my life back, but I am probably even happier just knowing that justice was served.
What was his reaction in the moment?
I think just an overwhelming sense of relief.
Social media certainly took off in a way that we've seen high-profile trials before, but do you believe the jurors saw any of that, were swayed by any of that?
No, I don't think there's any reason to believe that the jurors violated their oath, and that suggestion was disappointing to hear.
I don't know how they can possibly come to that conclusion. You could not escape it.
Do you see any larger message beyond the case you tried?
No, I mean, frankly, we don't. We're here to talk about the case that we tried, right? We encourage all victims to come forward, have their day in court, which is exactly what happened in this case.
When we heard the verdict, we were very disappointed. We have struggled for years to ensure that survivors' voices are heard. It turned out that the jury believed that, it was defamation, which is, by the way, a control tactic by a lot of abusive persons in order to maintain control.
So therefore, no, Steph, she does not believe Johnny is a victim.
Defamation cases will be exerted more often. It won't be pretty.
There will be plenty of plaintiffs who will file and pursue claims that may not be winning claims, but they'll take that chance.
So if we imagine a college student who is a victim of sexual assault, who wants to tell her story, the worry is that we might need to start counseling victims that telling their stories can have a very significant financial price.
What happens if I get ambered?
Oh my God.
Because we're beginning to hear those terms. Or
because she lied. Exactly why you should be pissed at Amber, miss.
We heard the term that Friday, I will Depp you.
We are already seeing other celebrities who are accused of sexual violence filing defamation suits against their accusers.
They're all lying. They all must be doing this just for money, and they must have clearly abused the women. But we must know for a fact. Oh my God, what happened to due process?
The Me Too movement at its core was about
the sad music.
About victims coming.
Johnny wins, and look how they're ending this. Oh my God, poor victims everywhere.
And telling their stories.
We're women and we're proud. We won't be shut down.
I do wonder whether there will be that power in numbers again, whether people will be willing to go forward knowing they could get sued for defamation.
I strain to recall a case like this where you had a celebrity who had fallen from grace use a public proceeding in a court trial to rehabilitate that image. And that's what he did, and winning was a welcomed byproduct.
I think looking back, people are going to think of this as...
I love even that example you just said. Like, I'm sure there's some truth to it, but there's also like the fact of like, he was known as a wife beater. Like, everyone wants to forget this. Like, everyone just like, oh, he should have accepted the challenge. No one wants to actually ask, well, what if he wasn't? Not that lawyer, not the person who supports DV survivors. None of them will accept, even still, after a jury verdict. What if he was? They still
the TikTok trial, the social media trial, the fan trial, because his fans really came out in such full force and really having fun with what were some pretty horrific claims.
This trial really demonstrates the power of the internet and how campaigns for public opinion can shape real-world effects.
Oh my God, you are so ignorant, Kat.
Politics, media, entertainment, this presents itself as a playbook.
I saw, is Me Too over? And you darn tootin' it's not. How do we deal with something like what just happened? She wrote an op-ed about her domestic violence. the op-ed
and lied, woman, and was caught lying. You refused to hear it.
And the social media were weaponized against her. So
she used social media against her victim. I mean, I just...
What does that mean to someone else who may want to talk about this? It's going to be tough.
You just made that narrative. No one else. You just did it.
Do it. I never say no.
Oh my God. All these people it took. Disgusting. Well, that put me in a good mood for my Thursday. Jesus Christ. So anyway, to wrap up our quick review of what is this stupid thing called? A Marriage on Trial, Johnny Depp, Amber, and the Truth in a Age of Social Media. Yeah, I'm going to give this a big fat biased, false bullshit. Not true. There's no truth in here. Only bias, NBC, mainstream media coverage. They disregarded so much and they wanted to villainize Johnny throughout the whole process. And it was a very lazy, cheap thing they put through, strung together. Booed NBC. This is sad and pathetic, but this is what the mainstream media does. No wonder they're coming over to us. If you like what we're doing, hit that subscribe button, hit that alert for all, the bell for all alerts. Better yet, smash that like button and then hit the join. Let's see some members today to really step it up and make this even bigger. This was such a long video. I probably kept all this, but I am going to trim here for later. So there's my cutting point. It's still a 2-hour video, but thank you guys for staying tuned. If you're watching live, we're going to talk more. I'm going to go through your comments. We're going to get your comments involved. Thank you guys for watching. Well, there you go. What a show. This music you're hearing was my high school music band. Oh my God, what a stream that was. We listened to some of that and we broke down so much more. It was such an amazing show with Kim, with Steph. You're not going to miss the full replay, so make sure you hit that join button today, pick a tier and join, because we're also going to be doing a members only stream on Sunday morning where I'm going to give you exclusive details of the studio and more. So join the Popcorn Planet tier family. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you back tomorrow for Feel Good Florida Man Fridays. Bye, everybody.